Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Tim's News Explosion on this Monday the 17th of February 2025. We are live on the Wilms Front YouTube channel, the Wilms Front Rumble channel, and on my X account. We are starting at the later time of 9:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, as some of you who are joining tonight's show will have been watching the first ever Tim's Watch Party for the just premiered ABC Four Corners episode Leaving Hate, which was promoted as focusing on the National Socialist Network, but when they had to, as I was discussing with Margot, that when they had to show real life example of extremist violence, they had to go to radical Islam. Now, already National Socialist Network members are gloating about the free publicity that they got. DML, are you doing a watch party of the follow-up ABC show? Is of Media Watch, or they've got Q&A with Patricia Carvelis. Q&A is just absolutely unbearable. No, this is just going to be a regular Tim's News Explosion, but I am going to follow up on, well, it's the aftermath of the Four Corners watch party. So yeah, the National Socialist Network accounts on Telegram, they're already bragging about the free publicity that they've got. Jacob Hershnet on his Telegram channel has written the ABC Birmingham Hershent shorts directly into the living rooms of white boomers. Thomas Sewell's car videos got a run. So did Michael Nelson's Mickles video. Pete Osterman says, I don't know what the point of that was. Well, it was at least better than the lead story on Channel 9 Melbourne's Sunday night bulletin yesterday, which was about the National Socialist Network members not engaged in activism, but exercising in a park in Elwood, which they regularly do. And then they took a photo at the end with the NSN, European Australian Movement flag, which they post up on their Telegram channels with Tribe and Train. So a complete non-story, white dudes exercising in a park. But apparently this was a story that the whole of the Nine Entertainment Co organization covered with Snapparazzi hiding in the bushes.
Good evening. Jewish leaders have warned Australia could be sleepwalking into a Nazi nightmare after video emerged of white supremacists holding a boot camp at Elwood Beach. The group, which included children, ran military-style drills in an exercise that's caused anger and outrage. Laura Turner has this exclusive report.
A relaxed afternoon at Elwood Beach, parkgoers seemingly unaware that next to them are white supremacists in training. The public display angering the Jewish community.
These losers came and did a workout in the park and then tried to play tough by putting up a racist symbol.
Among them, Jacob Hershent, the man jailed last year for performing the now illegal Nazi salute. The group, including a male child, performing boxing drills, and when the rain clears, their female supporters join for a chat.
These evil men are trying to build a Hitler Youth
Dvir again.
in the heart of Melbourne. Should frighten and concern every Australian.
What the group was doing isn't illegal. There appeared to be no swastikas on display and no
Exercising
Nazi
in a
salutes
park is
being
not illegal.
performed. Even so, some Jewish leaders say the mere existence of the group itself should be outlawed.
Any movement that celebrates, glorifies, or participates in the celebration of neo-Nazism and white supremacy.
We introduce laws to outlaw the Nazi salute, and if we need to increase the number of symbols that are outlawed so that they can get the clearest of message that silly flag that they tried to hold up in the middle of our
adopting the
beautiful
South
suburb
Australian
isn't
laws,
acceptable,
any
then so be it.
symbol that's
State government
associated
was
with
scathing.
It's a
neo-Nazism.
blatant, outrageous display publicly to gain attention.
But Dr Abramovich warns this could be more than that.
If Australia doesn't wake up to this ticking time bomb, we will wake up and realize that something terrible has happened.
Dvir is very fond of that phrase. These neo-Nazis are a ticking time bomb. Because, I mean, you're absolutely right. I just can't get over the sheer fetishization of it all. It's the Channel 9 organization that has given them all this publicity by filming them, exercising and broadcasting it. This is a complete non-story. I mean, maybe if it was Hugh Jackman or Nicole Kidman down at Elwood Park, that may be a story, and the Snapparazzis, they'd be interested in getting a photo there. But I'll make the point again. If you hate the National Socialist Network, why would you basically give them the celebrity treatment by having these Snapparazzis and broadcasting it on the 9 News? And because, I mean, stupid, sexy patriots. Well, I'm surprised that a few of them did have their shirts off that day, because I was in the Melbourne CBD that afternoon. I was nowhere near Elwood Park, FYI. But yeah, it was a very cold day. I was by the evening extremely cold, and I didn't pack a jumper because we're supposed to be in summer. So it was very cold day, and so I guess they must have been working out quite intensely if they needed to take their shirts off. Now, on the Saturday itself, the Age, which is part of Nine Entertainment Co., they put this article it was attributed to the staff reporters. It seems that they're worried if a reporter's name was added to it, they might get harassed on X. So they just said it was a team effort. And so they said Jewish leaders and politicians have condemned a white supremacist training boot camp. So obviously in that 9 News report, Jewish leaders was just Josh Burns, the Labor MP for Macnamara, who's Jewish, who I must say is looking pretty good. I mean, most guys, when they start a relationship, they tend to let themselves go, but he's actually looking very fit. He's dating the Animal Justice Party Victorian MLC Georgie Purcell, the ex stripper and topless waitress. So they're both divorced. They're certainly an odd couple, since Georgie Purcell has pro-Palestine sympathy. Brett Norman exactly hit the like button. So they commented on Jacob Hergenet's shirt, which is, I can't see it there, but it's got a Klansman on it. And of course, Jacob dressed up as a member of the Ku Klux Klan last Halloween in public, and chased a blackface Nathan Bull with a noose, and then posed for a photo which had Jacob's foot on Nathan Bull's face next to bucket of KFC chicken. So Jacob loved this publicity, so he reshared his Halloween video and snap. So again, the opposite effect. Now, Thomas Sewell and Joel Davis would not have been there because they are not allowed to associate with National Socialist Network or European Australian members as part of their bail conditions over being arrested and charged over Australia Day in South Australia. Now, Jacob was at the National Workers' Alliance event here in Melbourne. So they couldn't charge him for anything for that. So they quote Josh Burns here, and they say whose officers have previously been targeted with anti-Semitic vandalism. That was that vandalism was promoted on Antifa terrorist account, the Whistleblowers Activist Community Alliance. That should be a listed terrorist organization. So implying that, again, it was the National Socialist Network that did it. And if they want National Socialist Network to be a listed terrorist organization, last time I checked, terrorist organizations who are planning to overthrow the government don't tend to hold training exercises in full public view in a public park on a Saturday afternoon when there are lots of people there. So the way that they've written this here is that as locals just walked their dogs and they were oblivious to the white supremacists near them. And quoted in this article is Alex Rifkin, the Chief Executive of the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, who's co-hosting this Thursday with Shari Markson, the Sky News anti-Semitism forum. He's on Sky News basically every day now. One disturbing consequence, Rifkin said, has been the growth of neo-Nazi and white nationalist recruitment and public demonstration. While unconcerned by the Israel-Hamas war, they sense the country is experiencing a period of anti-Semitism they can exploit. They seek to manipulate the young, equip them with a sense of mission, and fill their minds with fantasies, blaming all the ills of societies on a familiar enemy. Local neo-Nazis have been documented recruiting aggressively among young men in Australia, including minors, as they plot building a racist new world order from their houses and gyms in suburban Melbourne. The Victorian government and Victorian opposition have been contacted for government. They would, the National Socialist Network would love that. Would love that line there, plotting, like pumping them up. Plot building a racist new world order from their houses and gyms in suburban Melbourne. Anything that that pumps them up, they absolutely love. But again, somebody like Sam Newman is the bad guy for interviewing Thomas Sewell and Blair Cottrell and actually asking them the tough questions. The questions that people want answers to, and probably the most, I would say, consequential answer that Thomas Sewell gave Sam Newman was that he wanted to deport 12 million non-whites from Australia, which, to put it mildly, is unreasonable to most Australians. But according to libertarian MLC David Limbrick, all Sam Newman is a person who platforms scumbags. Well, you could say the same about Nine Entertainment. They're like filming them and beaming them on the news. That's platforming them. You might not have interviewed them. Current Affairs interviewed Thomas Sewell, and Nine News has interviewed Joel Davis and Michael Nelson. Or is it only because some believe that Sam Newman is sympathetic? And of course, Sam Newman got pissed off at Blair Cottrell for suggesting that he had sympathies with the National Socialist Network. Now, Dvir, who is clearly suffering from relevance deprivation syndrome. Because remember, before October 7, he was the go-to in all of the mainstream media, both television and newspaper, whenever there was the National Socialist Network, to say my heart, it felt like my heart had been ripped out. But now, since October 7, he's been superseded by Alex Richkin, and also by the Lieblers, Mark Liebler, Arnold Bloch Liebler lawyer, and his son Jeremy, who's head of the Zionist Federation of Australia. And then, of course, there's David Adler's right-wing Australian Jewish Association. Because, I mean, libertarian not being very libertarian, of course, that's why I'll never vote for them. Yeah, I think that, yeah, as I said last week, it was a really appalling comment by David Limbrick, made him sound like a leftist. Freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences, even though Sam Newman didn't say anything that would aligned with the National Socialist Network's views. But nonetheless, Dvir Abramovich it's his new campaign fixation to get Sam Newman booted from both the AFL Hall of Fame and also to have the Geelong Football Club, where he played 300 games, to have his legend status revoked. So in the Geelong Advertiser this last week, if it actually loads here, I've got too many. I've got too many windows open here. And this was all, remember that it was that, it's not the same journalist, Brooke, I can't remember, this wannabe bimbo thought at the Herald Sun, who wrote the initial articles about Sam interviewing Tom and Blair and quoted Dvir. I've got it here now. So activist Dvir Abramovich calls on Geelong and AFL to review Sam Newman's club legend and AFL Hall of Fame status. So going down here, that Abramovich, chairman of the Anti-Defamation Commission, an Australian, it's called a civil rights organisation, more like an anti-freedom organisation that aims to fight anti-Semitism and combat all forms of racism and hatred, argues that Newman doesn't meet either criteria, that both the AFL and both Geelong and the AFL are at a crossroads. The Geelong Football Club and the Australian Football League face a defining moment. Will they continue to honour Sam Newman, a man who handed neo-Nazi hate mongers Tom Sewell and Blair Cottrell a golden stage to spread their vile anti-Semitism, filth, and praise Hitler, or will they act to protect their reputation and values? Geelong's club legend title is not just a pat on the back, it represents extraordinary deeds, impeccable values, and strength of character. But what part of giving Holocaust deniers and white supremacists a microphone to glorify their position aligns with those values? And what about the Australian Football Hall of Fame? Its criteria celebrates integrity, sportsmanship, and character. Well, where was Newman's character when he gave two notorious bigots the opportunity to mock the Holocaust, dismiss the gas chambers as lies, and dehumanize minorities? Real legends don't embolden extremists and don't give hate a single inch to breathe. They obliterate it. Legends don't take the game's proud history by sitting across from neo-Nazis and thanking them for dreaming of Aryan Australia. They rise above the darkness of bigotry and shatter the chains of prejudice. The Geelong Football Club, the AFL are symbols of unity, respect, and Australian values. The stakes couldn't be higher. Will they stand on the right side of history, or will they remain silent in allowing Newman to tarnish their legacies? The ball is in their court and we are watching. In a statement in response, Newman hit back at Abramovich and invited him to speak face to face. Unfortunately, we are living in times where intelligent people are being silenced so that stupid people won't feel offended. To dignify that diatribe with any other response indicates the person has not clearly listened to the context of the interview. If Mr. Abramovich would like to come out from behind his little word processor, I invite him to have a chat with me. Now, the Geelong Advertiser, they published Newman's response, but in the Herald Sun print edition, they did not. And Sam Newman, he decided to call out the Herald Sun for not publishing his right of reply in a short vlog that he uploaded to his Smartass Sam X account.
In the Geelong Advertiser today, there was a disgraceful article by a bloke called Abramovich. The Herald Sun picked it up, and the journalist from the Geelong Advertiser asked me for a comment, which they printed. The Herald Sun chose not to print my reply. This is what I said. Unfortunately, we are living in times where intelligent people are being silenced so that stupid people won't feel offended. To dignify that diatribe with any other response indicates that the person has clearly not listened to the context of the interview. And then I said, if he'd like to contact me, Abramovich, maybe I could have a chat to him. I wonder why the Herald Sun didn't put my reply in. Maybe they're being governed by a higher authority. Did you ever think of that?
Herald Sun being governed by a higher authority. What could Sam Newman be implying when he ended his video suggesting that? Now, both the Herald Sun and the Geelong Advertiser are part of the News Corp stable of newspapers. So the Daily Telegraph in Sydney, the Australian newspaper, and of course, Sky News. Obviously, News Corp has, through all its cross media, has been very pro-Jewish and Zionist since Hamas's October 7 assault into southern Israel. And again, I don't want to get sprayed by Sam Newman for attempting to interpret his words, but is he saying that they didn't publish his reply because they thought that Newman's response would basically demolish Dvir's arguments? And Dvir, why doesn't he accept Sam Newman's invitation? I mean, Sam's not going to assault him or attack him. Sam is one of those old school guys. You got something to say to me? Come say it to me to my face. That's why he does his podcast all in person, his interviews. Now, the Daily Telegraph last week, apparently there's not enough anti-Semitism for them to report. So they thought that they might elicit some through their, what they call in their memo, their undercover Jew operation. And so they sent in an undercover Jewish man who were to a popular Egyptian cafe in Newtown, which is called Cairo Takeaway. And so the undercover Jew that they hired is called Ofer Birnbaum, an individual described as a friend by the Australian Jewish Association, and also outlines the Daily Telegraph's intention to send Birnbaum into various neighbourhoods to film people's reaction. So he walked in to the cafe with a cap with a Star of David on it, and also a thick pair of black sunglasses, which apparently have a camera in it. And so this was the undercover Jew memo that News Corp sent out. Meet Gussie at Holt Street, call on arrival at 9 a.m. and head to Newtown 9:30 a.m. Undercover Jewish man Orif Barabum sees what it's like being Jewish in Sydney, will secretly film it with his video glasses. The aim is to walk down main streets in Newtown, Blacktown, Bankstown, Arncliffe. It might not do Arncliffe, it's the worst perhaps, and film people reaction to this Jewish man in their neighborhood. Needs discreet photos of guy walking down these streets to accompany the yarn. Send to pick desk for brief. Tim will be at 8 a.m. and Swift at 9:30 a.m. And the journalist who was a Daily Telegraph journalist who was accompanying Orifa, along with two Daily Telegraph photojournalists. One was taking photos and one was taking videos. Her name is Danielle Gusmiro, who has described she enjoys a deep dig and likes to get to the heart of the matter, has a tradition of breaking exclusives. Well, she became the exclusive when she failed to find any anti-Semitism, and the tables were turned on her. She comes from a pedigree of London's Fleet Street newspapers. Well, it certainly sounds like she does. There's several national awards to her name. Or what? Journalists patting each other on the back. That's hardly something to brag about. So, crikey, this is their article here by Daniel Side, and it also got a run on 9 News in Sydney, of course, the main rival to the News Corp media empire.
The Daily Telegraph is tonight under fire after an ugly blow-up in a Newtown cafe. It's been alleged the newspaper was running an undercover operation to see what it's like to live in Sydney being Jewish.
Tuesday afternoon and Cairo Takeaway Cafe is buzzing when a man wearing a Star of David cap walks in and orders a hibiscus tea. He moves to the back of the cafe, wearing glasses with a camera. He turns them on and he leaves, following the female staff member who served him. They're at the door when the man in the cap speaks up. The alleged conversation relayed to the cafe's chef.
Am I upsetting you being here? And she said, no, I'm just asking you, what do you want? He says, because I'm Jewish.
Seconds later, a senior journalist from the Daily Telegraph enters with her photographer and allegedly asks the same female server, have you got a problem with the man with the white cap? She says, why would I have a problem? Eventually they leave, the cafe worker not far behind, and she's now the one with the camera.
That is out and out intimidation. Who comes into a restaurant and asks me a question about this gentleman who I don't even know?
Do you think it's not intimidation that you found it appalling that he came into your shop?
Show me that you're from the Daily Telegraph.
Just trying to verbal her. They claim that she said something that she didn't.
It was all part of a stunt planned by the Daily Telegraph, allegedly called Undercover Operation. A leaked planning document reads, meet Gussie at Holt Street, call on arrival at 9 a.m. Undercover Jewish man Ophir Birnbaum sees what it's like being Jewish in Sydney.
We as a small community restaurant accept everyone into our restaurant and our venue and respect all walks of life.
Ophir Birnbaum is a prominent member of Sydney's Jewish community. During the recent anti-Semitic attacks, he pushed for unity.
We have to respect each other. People can disagree respectfully.
9 News understands the Daily Telegraph contacted a Jewish organisation to help facilitate the story, but they declined. The cafe owner called police, and after a 3-day investigation it was decided no crime had been committed. Late this afternoon, the Daily Telegraph responded, saying they never intended to provoke an incident and their approach could have been better handled. 9 has reached out to Ophir Birnbaum, but he has not responded. At Newtown...
So now this Yeah, I've already forgotten how to pronounce his name there. So Ophir Birnbaum. So now he's through his lawyer has claimed that he's the real victim because he was harassed on his way out, and claims that his glasses weren't on. And it was interesting that that waitress who confronted them, she had a Australian accent, sounded a bit like Jackie Lambie, working at even though she's working at an Egyptian delicacy restaurant in Newtown, which is actually in inner Sydney. It's not in the heart of Muslim Sydney. Now, there was a statement put out by the editor of the Daily Telegraph, Ben English, who is a real piece of work himself. So like other media, the Daily Telegraph has been reporting on the rise of anti-Semitism, investigating how it affects the daily lives of Jewish people in Sydney. The Telegraph never intended to provoke an incident at the Cairo takeaway restaurant in Enmore, which was one of multiple venues across Sydney we visited, nor to report that its staff are anti-Semitic. The Daily Telegraph acknowledges our approach could have been better handled. So they targeted other, perhaps, restaurants that had pro-Palestine messages on its social media, like Takeaway Cairo did, and failed to provoke any anti-Semitic responses, because otherwise it would have been reported in the Daily Telegraph. They have had zero stories on this undercover operation. And the Daily Telegraph has had to limit replies to its stories now because it was being massively ratioed. And the fact that he went into the restaurants with a cap with a Star of David on it, like, as far as I know, Jewish men don't tend to go around town like wearing baseball caps with Star of David on it. I mean, they wear the small cap, the yarmulkes, or what is that, the big Orthodox hat. I don't know what that is, but yeah, this is absolutely appalling. Where they're trying to get more material for Sky News' anti-Semitism forum, but I guess they were thankful that the next day, but the rest of Australia was absolutely appalled when these two Muslim doctors nurses, one of them claimed to be a doctor, in this chat roulette with this Israeli influencer, Max Fiver, who has about 150,000 followers. So he has released the whole chat roulette with the nurses Ahmed Rashad Nadir, who came to Australia as an illegal boat migrant at age 12 and was given Australian citizenship in 2020 when Peter Dutton was Home Affairs Minister, even though he came to Australia illegally. And I'm not sure of the citizenship status of Sarah Abu Lida, but it was Ahmed who was the main person on the chat roulette, and then Sarah joined in, and he didn't really provoke them, as this whole video shows, just said that he was Israeli, and then it all flows from them, and they're the ones who decide to go all out. And well, let's play it for the whole audience if you haven't seen it.
You know what? Oh shit.
How are you, man?
Good, how are you, my man?
Pretty good. Are you a nurse? A doctor?
I'm a doctor, my man.
A doctor? For what?
In hospital. What about you? Where are you from?
I'm from Israel. From the Holy Land.
You know what? I'm gonna be really honest with you.
All right.
I'm gonna be really honest with you. You actually got a really, really beautiful eyes.
Thank you,
But
man.
I'm so upset that you're Israeli. Like, eventually you're gonna get killed and you're gonna go to Jahannam, inshallah.
You
but
think-
like these pretty eyes, they should stay in this world for longer.
Why do you
Like,
think?
I
Why
swear-
do you think I'm gonna get killed?
Because inshallah one day God will.
Maybe because I
you're gonna-
served in the IDF. That's why.
That's definitely the
That's
answer.
compulsory.
correct?
That's the
for
reason, because I
Jewish men
served in
to
the
serve
IDF. What's the
It's not
problem with
special
that?
in
What's
that
the issue
regard.
with that?
Because you killed innocent people. That's why.
Killed? I was
guys are-
protecting my country.
And Sarah
So
jumps
you
in.
kill innocent people to protect your country. What kind of soul do you have? You have no soul.
In a war, people die, as you know.
No.
They started
No,
the
that's
war.
Not 1200.
Who
again,
started?
57.
It's okay. Your time will come.
Who started?
and I
Who
hope to
started
God-
this war?
I hope you guys.
Who
did
elected
the piece of
Hamas?
shit.
Who elected
This
Hamas?
it's Palestine's country, not your
Hello.
country. You piece
How
of
are you?
shit.
What's your name?
No, none of you.
We're
listen to my
talking
name.
politely
Listen to me.
here. We're
One
talking politely
day,
here.
One day,
One day.
your time will come and you will die the most horrible
You
death,
sprayed
and you
hate.
remember
We
me,
sprayed
and I
positivity.
pray,
We spread
and I
protection.
want
We
you-
spread
Listen to me.
peace.
Listen to me.
And
when
you
your-
spread
when your
death.
time comes.
How
when
are
your
you
time
doctors?
comes,
Wait.
I want you to remember my
I have
face.
okay,
so
okay.
You can understand
Gotcha.
That you will
I have
die
a question
the most
though.
disgusting death.
All right, for sure. I have a question though.
Yeah, what's your,
I have a question. Let's say an Israeli. God
I won't treat
forbid.
them. I won't treat them. I'll kill them.
You'll kill them? So if an Israeli is in Australia and God forbid something happened to him and he comes
Not
to your
God forbid.
hospital,
I hope to God.
would you kill him?
Okay, you have no idea how many Israeli Khara dog came to this hospital and I sent it to Jahannam. I
For
literally
real?
sent it to Jahannam.
For real? So if just Jewish people comes there,
So, as you can see, it doesn't. It all starts when this influencer Max Feiger says that he's from Israel, and then they just go off. But according to the initial statement that was put out by Ahmed Nidar, it was just a misunderstood joke. It's just a prank, bro. Oh, we were just wanting to troll him by saying that we would murder his people if they came as patients into this hospital. And now a lot now that the sort of like it's several days after, there are many Muslim groups that are now defending and sympathising with them because they sort of all stick together. The New South Wales Health Minister Ryan Parker said they'll never work in the New South Wales Health Department again, and they've been suspended by the medical practitioner regulator. There's a criminal investigation to see if they actually have harmed Jewish or Israeli patients. Email says you've got to pronounce it properly, Tim. It's Ahmed. Okay. I'm not good at pronunciation. So the Muslim Vote, who are running the pro-Muslim Palestine candidates, particularly in the seat of Blaxland, where the Bankstown Hospital is based, 31% of the population at the last census identifies with the Muslim faith. They're also running in Tony Burke's seat of Watson, which has 25% Muslim population. So they put out a statement saying that Max Pfeiffer posted an edited snippet of a video conversation with two nurses from Bankstown Hospital. The incident has since sparked outrage, largely amplified by a coordinated media campaign and inflammatory commentary across shock jock platforms. It has since emerged that Dvir is a recently serving member of the IOF and thus was involved in the genocide of the people of Gaza. A representative of the Muslim Community of Australia affirmed that all forms of discrimination based on race, religion are unacceptable and that healthcare should be provided justly to all. However, this statement addresses that selective outrage and political motivation surrounding the recent controversy involving 2 nurses from Bankstown Hospital. We emphasise the following key points. Selective outrage and political inconvenience. It is most revealing aspect of the reaction to the nurses' video is not from the video itself, but the speed, intensity, and uniformity of response from certain political leaders and media outlets. Yet the same voice of pride of active diplomatic and journalistic cover for ongoing crimes by the Zionists, as blatantly demonstrated this week with the Daily Telegraph's shocking attempt to fabricate an anti-Semitic incident at a local cafe. So basically the response, and Fatima Payman, also an Afghan refugee who's now in our parliament, left the Labor Party and is now basically a Muslim, pro-Muslim advocate. So she posted a video to social media basically saying the same thing. But what about all of the Zionist violence and the Daily Telegraph trying to create an anti-Semitic incident? Well, if I'll channel Spaniard, of course, that that ex-criminal rapper, yeah, fuck them all, because all of it's deplorable. And I concur with what people in the chat are saying, that Melissa, all this diversity and multiculturalism has given us so peaceful. Yes. Why was he a Ahmed Rashad Nidar? Why was he given Australian citizenship when he came to Australia illegally? Obviously, it was Rudd and Gillard's fault for dismantling border protection, but he didn't need to be given a visa in Australia, and he actually was a poster child for mentoring refugees by this Helmsman project, which is funded by the New South Wales Education Department and Multicultural New South Wales. Now, unfortunately, his citizenship cannot be revoked because the High Court decided that only a court could. The ministers can't. So we're basically stuck with him because, well, it'd be good if the Taliban would take him back. This was on the Helmsman Project. A quote from him: "I cannot thank the Helmsman Project enough. This project helped me to come out of my shell and be who I am right now. It helped me to be confident and stand for my rights." So at school, he said he encountered racism, according to his own telling. They used to tell me, "Why are you here for? Go back to Afghanistan," or "Shut up, you don't know how to speak English." Well, his English has improved, so we could understand him threatening to harm Israeli Jewish patients. At that time, I could understand what they say, but wasn't able to answer them back or stand up for myself. But he showed promise as a student, selected for coaching under the not-for-profit Helmsman Project, which aimed to help teams from disadvantaged communities. So, yes, this is what has eventuated. And the organisation later included an example of promotional material, an example of the power of hope, help, and love. There wasn't much love in his comments. Now, this was filmed. They were in the tea room, the staff tea room at the Bankstown Hospital, presumably on their tea break. I thought our hospitals were overwhelmed. They were suffering exhaustion because of COVID and everything else. Yeah, they're on chat roulette during their tea break, chatting to strangers. I mean, it seems they've got quite a lot of time on their hands there. So he didn't make them say it, Max Fiker, and he's not a journalist. He's just a social media influencer. And there's countless examples of social media influencers recording these chat roulette, Omegle chats, and then posting them. There was that Australian racist Catboy Kami who used anti-Semitic and anti-Black slurs on Omega chats, and remember he painted his face blackface, and also did a whole bunch of stunts in public as well. Then went to the United States to hang out with Nick Fuentes. Then there was that copycat gypsy crusader who dressed up as the Joker. Email says, I'm just assuming that pronunciation, by the way. I've actually got very little idea on the subject. Well, that's almost all the anti-Semitism news. Josh Frydenberg, he has the former Treasurer of Australia. He has announced that he is going to be launching with funding coming from prominent business leaders and philanthropists, the Door Foundation, to tackle the national surge of anti-Semitism. I think he called it a pandemic, epidemic. So he said the frequency and intensity of anti-Semitic attacks in our country is unprecedented. Intolerance we're seeing is un-Australian and undermines our shared values of freedom, respect, fairness, and equality. And he produced a documentary for Sky News called Never Again. And now there is no update, or it was reported through the 9 newspapers that the caravan full of explosives that was found in Dural in Sydney's northwest, which had a list of Jewish targets and a note that said "fuck the Jews," according to police investigators, is that it appears that, because organized crime store like weapons for years, and so apparently they're about like 40 years old, these mining explosives. That's why they didn't find a detonator. And it was apparently planted there for leverage for when these organized crime figures got caught in whatever they're doing and say, well, you give us a discount on my sentence if I tell you that there's this caravan full of explosives with a list of Jewish targets and an anti-Semitic note. I see that Dawn is back. Now, let's stick with what is it? The cultural clash news for a little while now. Not surprisingly, Sam Kerr, who is at the moment still the Matildas women's soccer team captain, she is being defended by her teammates. She's also being defended by her Chelsea coach, where she began training again because she's been out for a year with an ACL injury, so hasn't been on the field. So she, not surprisingly, she was found not. I wasn't surprised she was found not guilty of racially aggravated harassment of London Metropolitan Police Officer Stephen Lovell in January 2023, where after she spewed in a taxi and refused to pay for the cleanup, and then when he drove she and her fiance Christy Mewes to the police station, Christy Mewes kicked out the back of the cab when the police officer didn't believe their version of events, that they thought they were being kidnapped because they're probably so drunk, called him fucking stupid and white. And so it was a jury of 8 men and 4 women. So I'm not sure of the racial makeup, but this was also big news in the UK because it was another example of two-tier policing. That anti-white racism is legal in the UK, but of course, if a white footballer called a police officer of colour stupid and black or brown, they would be found guilty, and they would they'd have their contract torn up with their football club, and certainly have the captaincy stripped from the national football team. So Sam Kerr, she is, well, there's no indication that she's going to give up the Matilda's captaincy voluntarily, like former Socceroo and A-League player Bruce Jitte said, who is of African descent, himself said she should give it up voluntarily. Sam Kerr released a statement after the not guilty verdict, though she didn't talk to the awaiting media. Following today's not guilty verdict, I can finally put this challenging period behind me. While I apologize for expressing myself poorly on what was a traumatic evening because you got blind drunk and spewed in a taxi, I've always maintained that I don't intend to insult or harm anyone, and I'm thankful that the jury unanimously agreed. I would like to thank my partner Christy, my friends and family, and all the fans for their love and support, especially those who attended court each day. I am fully focused on getting back to the pitch and look forward to an exciting year ahead for me and my family, because she's having an IVF baby with her fiance Christy. Christy is the one that is pregnant. Christy Mewis is a US soccer player who plays for West Ham United in the Women's Super League. Now, the Victorian Electoral Commission has finally finished counting the votes in the twin by-elections, which were held way back on Saturday, the 8th of February. So it was called on the day after the election that the Liberal candidate Rachel Westaway had defeated the Greens candidate Angelica Di Camillo. Thanks in part to the former Labor member who ran as an independent, Tony Lupton, and preference the Liberals Rachel Westaway. So on Friday afternoon, when the Victorian Electoral Commission counted the last of the postal votes, the Labor candidate John Lister, who's a teacher, 31 years old, just got over the line against the Liberal challenger Steve Murphy, 60-year-old former police officer, ADF official and real estate agent, and also Catholic member of the Knights of the Southern Cross, fell just short on two-party preferred. There was around about a 640 vote margin. Now, the Labor primary vote took a tumble of 16.5%, but the Liberals only got 3.6% of that. The Greens didn't do didn't increase their vote much, 0.8%, but the Victorian Socialists, the surge of the far left, so it seems that the far left are just going for they just want to go for the most extreme party, which is the Victorian Socialists. So Sue Munro, 7.1%, 3.5% swing to the party, 3,000 votes. So you'd have to say congratulations to her, even though I find her a despicable person. Though you can't dismiss her dedication to turning up to every socialist event, counter-protest, legalise cannabis. Labor Mentia got 5% of the vote. Family First did well. Matthew Emerson, Bernie Finn is going to be running for the Family First Party for the Victorian Senate this federal election. And it's going to be that Purple Pingers, Jordan Vanderlam for the Victorian Socialist, and Fiona Patton for the Legalised Cannabis Party. So Labor just held on, but just got a massive scare. Now, despite the suburban rail loop being unpopular in the western suburbs, because SRL West, as it's called, is going to be built last, and they're stuck in Wyndham Vale near Werribee with a V-line service, not a electrified metro train. They're not getting the SRL West until another 40 years because the Andrews Allen government decided to build SRL East first, going from Cheltenham to Box Hill, because that's where the marginal seats were. But now they're like, oh shit, they're our base is starting to turn on us because we've deliberately neglected them because we thought that we'd never lose this seat. So it was interesting that in the aftermath of the Werribee by-election, because Werribee is in, as I mentioned, the outer west, Jacinta Allen doubled down on the suburban rail loop, and Catherine King, the Federal Infrastructure Minister, released the promised $2.2 billion in federal funding for the SRL East. So in my opinion, it's too late to cancel or can it because there's already holes in the ground. The contracts have been signed, so you may as well build it. It would be even worse for the state's economy for the Liberals to tear it up and leave just a bunch of holes in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. Like, they'll just have to finish building it. They'll just have to swallow the bitter pill. It's not like when they signed the contracts for the East-West Link right before the caretaker period in 2014, when nothing had even been constructed. So the state election, of course, is not until the last Saturday in November in 2026. There is one person, a Victorian government employee, who is already out the door after suffering an 87% vote of no confidence, and that is the now ex-Victorian Police Commissioner Shane Patton, who lost a no confidence motion of 14,000 Victorian Police Association members. And so the Allen government and the Police Minister Anthony Carbines did a complete backflip. They indicated to him, Shane Patton, 2 weeks ago that they would renew his contract for another 5 years. But after, I mean, you can't get as bad as 87%. It's the majority of the members of Victoria Police officers. There's 17,700 in total. So after that vote of no confidence, basically it was, because there's been the 2-year ongoing pay dispute between the Allen government and the Victorian Police Association. So they want a 24% pay rise over 4 years and the introduction of new 8.5-hour shifts, which would give officers an extra 14 days off. So it's now before the Fair Work Commission, and at the hearing, Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius, we remember him during lockdown, calling anti-lockdown protesters tinfoil hat wearing batshit crazy conspiracy theorists. He's been moved to Human Resources Command now. He told a commission hearing that Force Command had not been authorised by the Allen government to increase its original offer of 4%. And the Allen government is also going to be asking the Victoria Police hierarchy to cut $2 billion from the police budget. So I have zero sympathy for Shane Patton. There's some who are saying, he's been made a scapegoat, but he allowed himself to be the stooge of the Andrews government, enforcing his lockdown rules, using rubber bullets, pepper spraying, and knocking grannies to the ground, choking women for not wearing masks, handcuffing pregnant women in their home. That was all. He took operational responsibility for that. And of course, he thought he'd been rewarded for doing the government's dirty work, and now he's out on his ass because he just zapped the morale from the Victoria Police workforce. So many have quit just because he forced them to be the foot soldiers of the Dan Andrews lockdown. So yes, what goes around comes around, and there's sort of speculation whether he'll sort of spill the beans and sort of say, oh, like I actually pushed back against the lockdown regulations, but just following orders, that is not a defense, never has been. So the Allen government, they're putting in the Emergency Management Commissioner, Rick Nugent, who used to be a Deputy Commissioner of Victoria Police, as acting commissioner until they can find a proper replacement. So he's a candidate to be the new Victorian Police Commissioner. Then there is Deputy Commissioner Neil Patterson, who would be the first openly gay top cop. That's quite, they shouldn't put those two words together, gay top cop. And I remember National Socialist Network, they called Victoria Police upholding the anal sex, which actually Neil Patterson does, because he made a Red Cross volunteer cry. He was asking for donations outside Victoria Police HQ, berating that the Red Cross don't accept gay men's blood, and also got a Catholic police officer fired for opposing gay diversity programs. And he's also under investigation by the anti-corruption watchdog after being accused of misusing his authority during a traffic dispute outside a school. So he's got a lot of baggage there. So another candidate, Glenn Weir, the Assistant Commissioner for Road Policing Command. And then they could pick another woman, Wendy Steendam, Deputy Commissioner of Specialist Operations. She's going to be interim Chief Commissioner until Nugent can take up the acting role. And then they've got to get an acting Emergency Management Commissioner. So it's, yeah, it's been an absolute shit show. So basically, yeah, I mean, he, as I said, like people who say, oh, he's just the fall guy, he allowed himself to be used by the Andrews Allen government. So goodbye. And we'd also like Luke Cornelius to go as well, Chief Wiggum. He can retire on a pension full of donuts. Demel says, if people hadn't weighed Werribee Marginal, Patton would still be Chief Commissioner. I think that was the vote of the police associations. Now, Anthony Albanese, he could call the federal election this weekend, pending the Reserve Bank interest rate decision tomorrow. So at 2:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, the Reserve Bank of Australia will release its decision about whether to make an interest rate cut because the inflation numbers to the year ending the December quarter came in at under 3%. So most economists are tipping a rate cut. So Anthony Albanese thinks that his government will get the credit for it because of their excellent management of the economy, even though we're in a per capita recession. It's only being popped up by mass migration. Even though there were two shocking polls for the Albanese government, a Redbridge poll and a YouGov poll. Now, this means that because the election date is tipped to be March 29 if an interest rate cut eventuates, which means that Jim Chalmers wouldn't do another budget. It would mean the federal election would overlap with the Western Australian state election, though Labor is firmly in the lead. Incumbent Premier Roger Cook looks like he will be elected in his own right, and Labor will win a third term in Western Australia. The Liberal opposition is trying to rebuild from the two lower house seats they got at the 2021 McGowan slide. So Libby Methem, the opposition, a Liberal opposition leader, she is also dealing with the who I term the shadow opposition leader, the Mayor of Perth, Basil Zempalis, who is the Liberal candidate for Churchlands, a celebrity he's been a celebrity in the West Australian media for 20 years, had a national profile with Channel 7 AFL commentary and Olympics commentary. So there's also that as well. And now Clive Palmer lost a High Court bid to re-register his United Australia Party. So that means that the main two freedom parties on the ballot paper are the Libertarian Party and One Nation. Now, the major parties colluded last week to pass electoral spending caps, which will come in not this election, but the following after. So 800,000 spending cap for independent candidates, so sort of trying to stifle the fundraising of the Teals, but a $90 million spending cap for political parties. So they have a much larger pot. And it was rushed through without a committee like the hate speech laws last week. So we will watch this space, as they say, by the start of next week's Tim's News Explosion. A federal election could be called. And of course, here at the Unshackled, we will be covering both the Western Australian state election night. There'll be a very late night because they're 3 hours behind at the moment. So their polls won't close until 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. I hope the WA Electoral Commission is a lot faster counting the votes than the Victorian Electoral Commission. I hope they don't bugger off for a lunch break after the polls close. And whenever the federal election is, we'll of course be covering it as well with election night live streams. Now, there is also a federal election this Sunday in Germany. And there was sadly another Islamist terrorist attack in Germany in the city of Munich. So an Afghan illegal immigrant, the media called him an asylum seeker, drove his car into a protest crowd of trade unionists, leftists. So it's just been reported that a mother and child have died. 36 people were reported injured at the scene. And then there has been a stabbing in Austria as well. And there's also been another stabbing by an illegal Islamist in Greece as well. Now, the irony of, well, obviously this is tragic, so I shouldn't say this is ironic that this Munich attack occurred in the week of the Munich Security Conference. So obviously Munich wasn't very secure if there was this Islamist terror attack. So this is a sort of globalist gathering every year. And J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States, his speech made it very clear that the United States is going to be looking after United States interests. Europe should look after European interests. Basically, if fighting the war in Ukraine is so important to you, then it should be your responsibility. Now, Donald Trump, he is going to be meeting Vladimir Putin for a summit in Saudi Arabia, where they're going to be discussing how to end the conflict. Vladimir Zelensky, he told the Munich Security Conference, called for a European army. So basically, what is he proposing, like a new NATO? Because Trump has been annoyed at NATO freeloading off the US military-industrial complex since his first presidency. And this is why a lot of the security experts in Australia and the Australian government is worried about the future of AUKUS. And so Macron, he's a lame duck president. He is basically wanting to hold a summit of his own with Zelensky. And Keir Starmer, he has even said that he wants to put what he terms peacekeeping troops in Ukraine after a armistice is agreed to. So basically, what he's actually saying is that there will be NATO troops on Russia's border as part of a peace negotiation. So that is absolutely insane. Now, Keir Starmer, that's not the only bizarre thing that he has said and done recently. He decided that he would last week take a HIV test. He, in his words, to reduce the stigma surrounding it.
I did an HIV test. It's really simple. It's really painless. The test can be sent to you through the post. It's National Testing Week, so it's free. And it's literally just a little prick of the finger, a little drop of blood, goes into a capsule, 2 other mixing fluids, test done. Really, really easy to do, very, very simple. And really important to do it because there's just under 5,000 people who have got HIV but don't know. I found out today that I'm the first Prime Minister to have done this. Now, that's not about me, I'm surprised, but I would just encourage other leaders, community leaders, those that can reach right into different groups within our communities. Do the test yourself, show other people, talk it through, explain, because we have to try and make sure just as many people as possible do get tested.
So he's urged other world leaders to take a HIV test. So I assume that Anthony Albanese will be next in line. Now, obviously, there's been the rumours about queer Starmer. Obviously, his gay Muslim sugar daddy, Lord Ali, who's been providing him with his clothes. And then there is his vocal coach, Leonie Millinger, who he was seeing during lockdown. She can't be value for money because he sounds still so boring. With the vocal coaching lessons in Lord Ali's apartment, where he did lockdown addresses and made it up to look like he was staying in his own home. And now this led to a conversation about why would a supposedly married heterosexual man need to take a HIV test? Isn't the most high-risk groups for HIV transmission men who have sex with men, particularly anal sex, because there can be tears in the anal cavity easy, which is how exchanging bodily fluids, that is how HIV is transmitted. How can heterosexual couples transmit to each other? Obviously, it can be transmitted through semen, man ejaculating inside to a woman, but the reason why it can be spread from a woman to man in African countries is because of this. Now, this might be too much information, but this is a fact. So it's because it is a cultural practice in sub-Saharan Africa, dry sex, the practice of having sexual intercourse without vaginal lubrication, which the natural vaginal lubrication can be removed by using herbal aphrodisiacs, household detergents, antiseptics, by wiping out the vagina or by placing leaves in the vagina, besides the message. Dry sex is associated with increased health risks. So yes, that is, there we go. That's some sexual education for you. Now, Donald Trump is going to be meeting with Keir Starmer. He says, Donald Trump, that he doesn't know what to expect from the meeting because he said Keir Starmer called for it, not me. So that's going to be interesting. Now, visiting the White House this week was Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who said that what did he say? That he said that he's implementing his own mega movement, and so he so he said that "Make America Great Again" equals what he calls mega, which so that stands for. Can't remember what the E stands for. So I'll see if I can ask Grok here what a mega stands for. Just bear with me. No, it doesn't stand for that. So just bear with me here. So it's called it doesn't actually stand for anything. It's called a mega partnership, so which he calls mega. I don't think it actually stands for anything. Pete Osman says that he's in favor of Meta, make Europe traditional again. Now, obviously, what has thrown a spanner in Albanese's a pumping up of a economic recovery is Donald Trump announcing across the board 25% tariffs on imported steel and aluminium. Anthony Albanese said, "Don't worry, I'm having a call with Trump and we'll sort out an exemption like Malcolm Turnbull and Scott Morrison did during Trump's first term." And all Trump said after that is that an exemption was under consideration. Then Peter Navarro, one of Trump's trade advisors, who's a Trump loyalist, said that Australia's aluminium imports are killing our industry. Peter Navarro, he went to jail for Trump, contempt of Congress. So he is obviously going to be part of Trump's art of the deal negotiations by, I guess, sort of being the bad cop here. But of course, I previously said I don't support tariffs. They are ultimately destructive for all nations. And Trump has announced reciprocal tariffs on all other countries that impose tariffs on US goods, which apparently include value-added taxes such as our GST, which is truly bizarre. The United States doesn't have a federal sales tax. It's all implemented by state. And this is why in like stores in the United States, because every state has a different sales tax, the price excludes sales tax. So 99-cent stores, for example, are not 99-cent stores. You'll pay $1.07 something with tax. But Donald Trump, he had a significant victory in the United States Senate. Well, it was a victory for all Americans. Tulsi Gabbard confirmed as a Director of National Intelligence, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. confirmed as the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. All of the Republicans, apart from Mitch McConnell, voted to confirm them, which just shows that Donald Trump, it is now the MAGA party. I mean, the fact that he even got convinced Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, those two rhino senators, because they didn't vote for Pete Hegseth as Defense Secretary. And what would it be if it was 50-50? Because JD Vance is not there. He's over at the Munich Security Conference. So there is only one what is termed controversial appointments to go, and that is, of course, Kash Patel, head of the FBI. But it's looking pretty good. Dawn Browning said, what happened to the Aussie aluminium place in South Australia? Yes, that has shut down because, well, Chris Bowen and the Albanese government's renewable energy policies are doing a pretty good job of killing the aluminium industry smelters here in Australia. And they take up a lot of electricity. So when there's massive demand for power, like in summer, they're paid to shut down aluminium production. And of course, we need obviously all of our canned drinks such as Coke that we put into the container deposit scheme come in aluminium. Of course, it is actually worth returning your aluminium to the container deposit scheme because you're already paying for it through inflated prices. The ultimate winner of the container deposit scheme is, of course, Visy. Anthony Pratt, the head of Visy, basically wants to take over the world's packaging. He's got a green card in the United States, friendly with Donald Trump. I loved Dan Andrews probably because of the container deposit scheme. Has given $1 million to Anthony Albanese's re-election bid. So yes, that's another fun fact about our aluminium smelter. All right, that brings us to the end of another Tim's News Explosion. It's been a long night for me because, of course, I did the Tim's Watch Party for the Four Corners episode, which, well, as I mentioned at the start, was supposedly about the National Socialist Network, but they could only find examples of Islamist extremism to report on. Now, tomorrow, I will be back on Reality Check Radio New Zealand's breakfast program with Paul Brennan for another Wilms report. So it will be uploaded to the RCR playlist app and podcasting platforms tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. And of course, if you want to support all the work of the Unshackled, so I can bring you more Wilmsfront reports, Wilmsfront interviews, I should say, because I haven't got one lined up. Please consider supporting the Unshackled through a premium membership at theunshackled.net. So there is bronze $5 per month, a $50 per year, silver $10 per month, $100 per year, gold $25 per month, $250 per year, platinum $50 per month, $500 per year. So the unshackled.net is the home of our articles and Unshackler awards, and our Substack is the home of our Unshackled productions. We also send out email alerts for upcoming Unshackled productions, like for tonight's. So the unshackled.substack.com/subscribe, monthly $5 per month, annual $50 per year, a founding member $500 per year. So I've got a few Wilmsfront guests in the pipeline, so I'll let you know when I've got one confirmed. And of course, we've got, certainly got the WA state election on March the 8th. That date is fixed. And it might be a March Madness with the federal election on March 29th. I'll be filming some new reports from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft later this week. Hopefully he's back on Sam Newman's You Cannot Be Serious podcast this week with Ivan for another cracking discussion, and we'll see if Sam has anything more to say following his video about the Herald Sun answering to a higher power. Now, remember to wherever you're watching this, whether it's on the Wilms Front YouTube or on Rumble or watching the replay on Odyssey, make sure you subscribe, click the bell notifications, so you have a thumbs up, like, comment below, and share. That's the easiest thing that you can do because it all helps. So I will see you definitely next Monday for another Tim's News Explosion at the regular time of 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time, daylight savings time. I don't think there is going to be some news story that I'm going to need to cover and delay the show again. But of course, I was on air at 8:30 with the watch party. So in the meantime, stay safe, stay sane, stay free, and of course, be aware of the fake news media as well, because boy, have they been at it this week. Good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News